Okay, is this section highlighted? It is, right? Yes, okay. So partial fraction decomposition. So the way that they asked this question on the final from last semester, it was pretty bad. And so I think they're going to change how they ask you, but I don't know for sure how it'll be presented. So anyway, partial fraction decomposition, here's what it is, okay? Basically, they give you a fraction like that, and they want you to rewrite the fraction as two separate fractions like this. So this right here on the left is the problem, and on the right is the answer. Okay, now you're going to study. Someone was adding up the hours on that schedule. You might not want to do it. Well, I'll just tell you. Do you want me to tell you? I think in someone's paper it was like 20.5. It's a lot. But you're taking a tough college class in high school. So anyway, you're going to study really hard for this final. You're going to want to check every possible answer you can check. And I do think that you will have time to check. It's a 2-hour test, okay? I'm going to show you one way to check right now. That's not how I check. I'm going to show you a different check that I think is easier, okay? So anyway, if the pink really is the answer, then when I add those back together, I should get the yellow, okay? So let's add these two things together. So you have to get a common denominator. And the common denominator would be just pulling those two things together. So the first fraction has the x minus 3, but it's missing, the x plus 2. So you have to distribute the 2, and you get 2x plus 4. The second fraction has the x plus 2. It's missing the x minus 3. So you have to go -1 times x is negative x. -1 times -3 is a positive 3. And then when you clean that up, you get x plus 7 over x minus 3 times x plus 2, which is exactly what I started with. Okay, and yes, the bottom is not multiplied out, but if you multiplied it out, it would be exactly what's there. Okay, so that's one way to check it. In my opinion, not the easiest way to check it, but it's a way. Okay, okay, so here are the steps. The steps might be meaningless until we do it. You know, let's read the steps as we go. So step number 1, factor the denominator. Okay, so let's write it over here. Everybody go 1 over. And the only thing I can do to factor that denominator, guys, is just take out an x. So if I take out an x, I'm left with 2x plus 1, like that. Okay. Step 2, split each factor in the denominator into its own fraction. Write the numerators as a and b and c and d and go as far as you can. So what step 2 is saying is, you see how like there's a term and there's a term? So the x gets its own term, and then put a plus, and the 2x plus 1 gets its own term. So you just split it into 2. Now, I don't know what's supposed to be above the x, so I'm going to put in an a, and I don't know what's supposed to be above the 2x plus 1, so I'm going to put a b. Okay, step number 3, let's not worry about step 3 until we get there. Step 3 does not apply to this problem. Step number 4, multiply each term in the equation by what the common denominator would be. You know, I actually don't love that. So where it says by, cross out what the common and cross out would be. And let's say multiply each term by the original factored denominator. It's better, and it will make more sense to you. Tell me what page we're on right now, would you please? Say it again, 107. Okay, thanks. Sorry, I want to edit that for next semester. Okay, sorry about that. So if you look at the original denominator, when it's factored, you have x times 2x plus 1. So I want you to multiply this term by x times 2x plus 1, this term by x times 2x plus 1, and this term by x times 2x plus 1. So just all three of those terms get multiplied by the original factor denominator. Why did I do that? Well, look right here. The fractions are terrible. And by doing this, it helps me to get rid of the fractions. So everybody look at this. So what I have is I have an x on the top and an x on the bottom, and a 2x plus 1 on the top and the 2x plus 1 on the bottom. So all I have left is just a 1. Okay, look at the second term. It's right here in pink. So the only thing on the denominator I'm trying to get rid of is the x. Well, I've got an x to get rid of it right there. And now you distribute the a, and you get 2ax plus a. Okay, the third one, I've got a 2x plus 1 on the bottom. Well, I have a 2x plus 1 on the top. So what I'm left with is bx. Okay, who says, I'm with you so far? I understand. Okay, great. Now this part's going to be weird. I'm just warning you. Just stick with me and I'm going to explain, okay? So step number 5, separate the equation into multiple equations. One with all the terms that have no x. Another one with all the terms that have an x to the first. Another one with everything that has an x to the second, etc., until everything's written, okay? So let me show you. Let's take our pencil and let's take our highlighter and highlight everything that does not have an x in it, okay? So it would be those two things. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an equation that has just those two things. So it would just be 1 equals a. That's it. And now, do you see these two that are left right here, guys? Those both have an x in it. So I'm going to make another equation with just the things that have an x in it. So that would be 2ax plus bx. You guys, the left-hand side didn't have a term that had an x in it. Well, I have to have something there. So it would be like 0 times x, because 0 times x is just a 0. Okay, who says I'm still with you? Raise your hand. Okay, this is the weird part. I'm going to show you, and you're going to follow, and then we're going to do it a way easier way. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is to just watch. Okay, I'm looking at this equation right here. Okay, on the right hand side, I'm going to take out an x. So I have 0x equal, you don't have to write this down because I'll show it to you 1,000 times easier. I'm just explaining. So you take out an x and you're left with 2a plus b. So all I did is write down that exact equation and I factored out an x. Well, if I wanted to get rid of the x, I could divide by x. Well, then those x's cancel and those x's cancel, and my result would be 0 equals 2a plus b. Who says I understand that? Okay, you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is take this equation right here that I boxed and drop the x's. So now write this with me. When you drop the x's, you get 0 equals 2a plus b. Okay, you guys, my answer is going to look like that with a and b filled in. So let's come down here where we're going to write our answer. Okay, and I would even like box it or highlight it. Then I just have to figure out what a is and b is, and I'm done. Well, I already know that a is 1. So I'm going to come right there above the x where I put the a and put in a 1. Then I'm going to go into this equation right here that I'm highlighting in purple, and I'm just going to put a 1 in for a. So that would give me 2 plus b equals 0. Pull the b over, it becomes a negative. B equals -2. There's my answer. Now it gets tougher. We're going to start out slow, and each one will get progressively more difficult. Who says I understand that? Raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's go ahead and do it again. Step number 1, factor the denominator. Okay, so write the numerator down, and now let's factor the denominator. So it goes to an x and an x. The 3 goes to a 3 and a 1. Signs are the same. They're both positive. So there's step 1. You guys, in that denominator, you have 2 factors. One of them is an x plus 1, and the other one is an x plus 3. So I'm going to have them each their own. I don't know what goes above the x plus 1, so I'm going to put an A. I don't know what goes above the x plus 3, so I'm going to put a B. My recommendation is to right now come down to the bottom of your paper, and I want you to write your answer, which is going to look like that. And now all I have to do is find my A and find my B, and I've got my answer. Okay? The next step is to multiply by the original denominator that's factored. So this would be x plus 1 times x plus 3. And you have to do that 3 times. Sometimes people get a little lazy and they don't write the x plus 1 times x plus 3 because they're like, oh, I can do that in my head, and it causes problems. So I would take the 10 seconds that it takes to write it. Okay? In the first fraction, x plus 1, x plus 1, x plus 3, x plus 3. What I have left is x minus 2. In the second fraction, it's so easy to cancel, guys. All you have to look at the denominator, x plus 1, get rid of the other, x plus 1. Then distribute the A, and you have ax plus 3a. Do the next one, x plus 3 on the bottom, x plus 3 on the top, distribute, and you get bx plus b. The denominators will always get wiped out. They'll always get wiped out because I chose what to multiply by correctly. Okay, so everything that doesn't have an x, that would be this and this and this. So I'm going to write negative 2 equals 3a plus b. Now I'm going to write down everything that has an x. So that would be x equals ax plus bx. Okay, now what number is in front of the x that's on the left side? It's a 1. So write a 1 right there. And then take your eraser and just get rid of those x's, because that's our next step. So it's just really 1 equals a plus b. Okay, now can anybody tell me, how am I going to find out what a and b are? Any idea? I've got 2 equations and 2 variables. Yeah. Substitution or elimination, whichever you prefer. I definitely prefer elimination. So I would take this second guy and distribute a negative 3. So then I'd have negative 3 equals negative 3a minus 3b. And now I'm taking these two, just in case I confused you because I wrote it up above. I'm taking those 2 equations that I just highlighted in yellow, and I'm just adding them together. I'm just doing elimination. So those go away. I have negative 5 equals negative 2b. Divide by a negative 2, and I get b equals 2/5. Now, it's unfortunate that it's a fraction. Okay, if I were doing this on my final or on my quiz 4, I would stop and I would double check. Okay, yes?
Should that be 5 halves?
Yes, it would. 5/2. Thank you. Okay, so if this were me and this were my quiz or this were my test, I would stop if I got a fraction and I would just quickly scan for mistakes. We have not made a mistake. So I'm going to come over here to B, and I'm just going to put 5/2 like that. Okay, now I have to take the B and plug it in somewhere and find my A. Well, my opinion is that pink equation right there is definitely the easiest place to do that. Okay, so I have A plus B, which is 5/2, is equal to 1. Then I pull my 5/2 over, so I get A equals 1 minus 5/2. Now, you guys are super smart. I know that. For anybody that wants to, I'm going to show you how to do that on the calculator. Okay, so everybody go, or anybody that wants to, 1 minus 5 divided by 2, enter, and I get negative 1.5. I think most of you know that negative 1.5 is equivalent to negative 3/2, but in case you don't, everybody hit second, and then the diagonal button is PRB, hit enter, and that gives you negative 1.5. I would not write it as negative 1.5. Remember, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is a 3. So A is a negative 3/2, and I'm done. Okay, I'm going to show you how to check in a minute because I don't want to do too much too fast. So I think we're just going to stick tight because I don't want to push you over the edge. Okay, who says I understand? Let me see how we're doing. Okay, great. Okay, question 3. Find the partial fraction decomposition. So freeze for 2 seconds and let me show you something. See these steps up here? I skipped over step 5 because it didn't pertain to the problems, but it's going to pertain now on this problem and beyond. So it says separate the equations into multiple equations.
It was number 3.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. It is number 3. Thank you. If a factor is listed in the denominator multiple times, meaning if it's squared or cubed or fourth, something like that, it must be split into the factor to the first power, and then the second power, and then the third power, until you get to the power that it's given in, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? So just stay calm. It's not that bad. Okay, so step number 1, factor. There's nothing to do because it's already factored for me. Do you see how that's squared? So since it's squared, I have to write it once, x minus 2, and then I also have to write it twice, like that. Don't write this down, but if this was cubed, you would have to do once, and then twice, and then 3 times. So you have to start at a 1, go to a 2, go to a 3, go to a 4, until you get to the exponent that is given. Who says I understand? Okay. So that's really squared, and that's really not there. Okay. So in front of this is an A. Okay, above that is an A. Above the next guy is a B. Okay. Multiplied by what the common denominator, what the original denominator is. Instead of writing x minus 2 squared, personally, I would write x minus 2 times x minus 2. I'll explain why in just a second. Okay, look at the first fraction. You have 2x minus 2's. Well, that's 2x minus 2's. So everything goes away and you just have x plus 3. This guy right here, this x plus 2 cancels with that x plus 2. Then you distribute and you go ax minus 2a. That's why I don't write it as squared, because sometimes only one cancels and I think it's easier. So anyway, this is a squared. That goes away, and you have a b. Okay? Now, anything that has no x in it, here and here and here. What I have is 3 equals negative 2a plus b. Anything that doesn't have that does have an x in it, that would be 1 equals x. So I know x is 1. So I'm going to come down here where I'm going to write my answer. I put in a 1. And now I just have to find my b. So I put a 1 into that equation. I get negative 2 plus b equals 3. Move my 2 over. I get b equals 5. And I'm done. Yes? Remember, you go from this equation right here, and anything that has an x in it, you write it down. But I don't have to write the x's anymore. So that would be 1 equals, oh, this should be 1 equals a, sorry. 1 equals a, because I dropped the x's. Who says I gotcha? Let me see. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Just freeze right here for just a second, okay? Okay, I feel like you're ready to check. Okay, we're going to check this thing. You're going to want to know how to check because it's likely to be on the final. Someone tell me the domain of that expression right there. What is the domain? X can't be 2. Okay, so write down x can't be 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose x to be another value, whatever you want. I'm going to choose 0. Someone else might choose 10. Somebody else might choose 1,000. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Listen, here's how I like to check. If this original problem is really the exact same as that, then when I plug in a random value of x that is not 2, when I put it into the original, and then when I put it into my answer, they better be the same. Who says I understand that? Okay, the only tricky part is inputting parentheses. See the numerator of the original problem? It has 2 terms. I need parentheses. See the numerator of the answer? It has 2 terms. I need parentheses. Okay, we're going to do this together. Everybody grab your calculator. Okay, I want calculator in hand. Okay, you're going to study for this final for 20 hours, so you want to be empowered and know how to check. Okay, everybody go 0, store, enter. Put in the original problem. So go parenthesis, membar, enter, +3, close it. Divided by parenthesis, membar, enter, -2, close it, x squared, hit enter, and you get 0.75. If I were you, I would jot that down somewhere. It has nothing to do with your answer. 0 to do with your answer. Your answer is right here, okay? But I'm just jotting it down to make sure I get a 0.75 down in my answer. Everybody go 1 divided by parenthesis, membar, enter, -2, close it, +5 divided by parenthesis, membar, enter, -2, close it, hit x squared, hit enter. I got the same thing. There is a 0% chance that I'm wrong. It's got to be right. Okay, who says gotcha? Let's see. Okay, great. Okay, find the partial fraction decomposition. Okay, here we go. So you have 9x to the second plus x minus 2 over x to the second times x plus 1. On the final last semester, here was the question. It said something like, I don't know, the wording was terrible. I don't know. I would have said, set up the partial fraction decomposition. So the problem was actually amazingly easy. Here's what they wanted. Okay, so let's do this together. Do you see how the x is squared? So I have to have 1 with it to the first, and I have to have 1 with it to the second. The x plus 1 is not squared, so I just need 1x plus 1. So I don't know what goes above, so there's an A, and there's a B, and there's a C. You ready to hear something amazing? Don't mark your paper up. I'll mark mine up. That was the answer on the final. All they wanted you to do was set it up for the first step. But nobody had any idea what they wanted because the wording was so bad. So I don't think they're going to do it again. They could, and you'll see it. When you do the reviews, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about because you'll do last semester's final. So anyway, that's not what we're going to do. They just wanted the setup, which was the right-hand side. Okay, now I'm going to multiply all of these things by the original factored denominator. Like I said before, please take the time to write those down 4 times. It's not going to ruin your life, but it could cause you to miss it if you don't. Okay? Original fraction, x squared to cancel, x plus 1 to cancel, and you have 9x to the second plus x minus 2. Second fraction, all I care about is canceling this x. So this x cancels with one of those x's. Okay, so now what I have on the outside, I have an a and I have an x, and it's distributed to x plus 1. So distribute that, and you get ax to the second plus ax. Next fraction, x squared cancels with x squared. Distribute the b, and you get bx plus b. last fraction, x plus 1 cancels with x plus 1, and you have plus cx squared. Raise your hand if you're with me. Raise your hand high. Let me see. Okay, great. Okay, anything that doesn't have any x's, that would be here and here. Freeze for 2 seconds. That's amazing. Because right there, I know that b is a -2. I've already solved one. It's so much easier if that happens, so you should feel lucky. Okay, anything that has just an x, I'm going to highlight in green. Okay, don't write the x down. So you would have 1 equals a plus b. Anything that has an x squared, but don't write the x squared. So you have 9 equals a plus c. I'm going to go over to where I'm writing my answer, and where I'm supposed to put my b, I'm going to put in a -2. So I'm filling in that answer. Now I'm going to go into this pink equation, and I'm going to put in a -2 for b, and find my a. So I have a minus b, pardon me, not minus b, a minus 2 equals 1. Bring my 2 over, a equals 3. I'm good, because it's a plus b, but b is a -2. So it's a minus 2, pull it over 3. Am I good? Yeah. So then it's, it's good. Put in a 3 for a. So I have 3 plus c equals 9. Pull my 3 over, c equals 6. There's my answer in that box. Okay, who says I'm good? Okay, now here's what happens. I have to review a concept that you've learned before. This example is not easy. I'm going to forewarn you. Why am I suddenly solving a system of equations in the middle of this partial fraction decomposition lesson? That is because this next lesson, or that next example, brings me to the problem up above. So if you don't know how to do this right here, you're not going to be able to know how to do the next one. Okay, solving 3 variables and 3 equations algebraically. Okay, nice and slowly. This is equation 1. This is equation 2. This is equation 3. Would someone please tell me when the bell rings? 06. Is that correct? Okay, great. So we're fine. Okay, here's what you do. You either eliminate the A's or the B's or the C's, and you have to do it twice. Okay, so look at the A's, 2, 1, 3. Look at the B's, 1, 1, 1. Look at the C's, 2, 1, 2. It doesn't matter what you do. This person can do A, this person B, this person C. They're all going to get the same answer. I always look at the easiest route because I don't want to make this problem too tough. What's the easiest route? B's. So I want you to write down, eliminate B's. So if I take equations 1 and 2 and I add those together, my B's go away. So I'm going to add 1 and 2 together. When I do, I get A. The B's go away. Plus 3C is equal to 18. Now I have to eliminate the B's again, but I have to use 2 different equations. Well, the easiest would then be 2 and 3. Because all you have to do is add 2 and 3 together, and then you've got it. So if I add those together, I get 2A, the B's go away, plus 3C is equal to 21. So I eliminated the same thing twice. Who says, gotcha? Okay, now I'm just 2 equations and 2 variables. Well, that's easy. I'm just going to take these 2 guys and eliminate something else. So look at the A's, 2 and 1. Look at the C's, 3 and 3. So C's are obviously the easiest. All I have to do is distribute a negative either to the equation on the right or the equation on the left. When I do that, I get negative A minus 3C equals -18. Now my C's have gone away. So I have A equals 3. On this problem right here, I would have to write my answer as an ordered triple, A comma B comma C. So I know A is a 3. What I do next is I go back. So I went like this. I make my 10-10 students, this is part of 10-10. I make them like do a dance. I say, the first thing you do is eliminate the B's. Then you eliminate the B's again. Then you take these two guys and pull them together and eliminate something else. That's the step I'm at. So the next step is to go here. So you go back to the center, and that would be either that equation or that equation, and you put a 3 in for A, and you find your C. So I'm going to use that one because to me it looks easier. So I have 3 plus 3C equals 18. The 3 comes over, 3C equals 15, divide by 3, C equals 5. Now I need to find B, and the only place there are any B's at all is back up at the top. So that's the last step of the dance, is to go back to the top, and you choose the easiest equation that you think. It doesn't matter, you're going to get the same answer any equation you use. I'm going to choose that guy because he looks easy. So I'm going to go negative A, that's negative 3, plus B, plus C, which is 5, is equal to 3. So that gives me B plus 2 equals 3, and that gives me B equals 1. So my answer is 3, 1, 5. Okay? Who followed me? Raise your hand. Okay, now we're going to put the whole thing together. Okay? And I think it's the last problem. No. 2 more. Do I think it's going to be this tough on your final? No. But I want you ready for anything. I don't want to feel guilty when you guys take your test because I didn't push you up to the level that you need to be, okay? So know how to do it, but I for sure feel like the probability is pretty low, okay? All right, step number 1, factor the denominator. That is done. Step number 2, split it apart. You guys, the x plus 2 is only to the first, so I just have to write it once. The x minus 1 is squared, so please remember you have to write it once as a first power, then you have to write it twice as a second power. Okay? Up above here, A and B and C. I'm going to come down to where I'm going to write my answer. I'm actually going to squeeze my answer up here because I know that I need a lot of room to do this problem. So that's where I'm going to write it. I always just set myself up so I'm nice and organized and ready to go. Okay, now I'm going to multiply all of these terms by the original factored denominator. Okay, first fraction. Just look at the denominator, guys. So x plus 2, x minus 1 squared, x minus 1 squared. So what I have left is 2x to the second minus 3x plus 13. The second fraction, x plus 2's cancel. Now, x minus 1 squared. You have to FOIL that. So write your a down, and then we're going to distribute it to x minus 1 squared, which is x to the second minus 2x plus 1. So I FOILed x minus 1 squared in my head, and I got that guy right there. But I can't forget to distribute the a. Okay? Next one, x minus 1 cancels with one of those x minus 1s on the top. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a b, and then in my head I'm going to FOIL, and when I do that, I get x to the second plus x minus 2, like that. So all I did is multiply x plus 2 times x minus 1, wrote it there, put the b in front, waiting to be distributed. Okay? Okay, the last one is x minus 1 squared times x minus 1 squared. Distribute the c, and you get cx plus 2c. who says so far so good? Raise your hand. Do a big raise all the way to the ceiling so I can get a feel for how we're doing. Okay, most of us are good. Okay, distribute those a's and b's. So I have 2x squared minus 3x plus 13 equals ax squared minus 2ax plus a plus bx squared plus bx minus 2b plus cx plus 2c. Anything that has no x in it at all, I'm highlighting. Looks like that. I'm going to flip-flop it. I'm going to write the a's and b's and c's on the left and save myself a step. So I'm going to go a minus 2b plus 2c equals 13. Anything that has an x to the first in it, that's anything that I'm highlighting right there in green. I'm going to put the x, a, b, and c on the other side, and I'm dropping the x's. So I would have negative 2a plus b plus c equals negative 3. Anything that has an x squared without the x squared flip-flopped is a plus b, no c, which is sweet, equals 2. Thank you. Got distracted for a second. Okay, who says I'm still with you? I'm still with you. Okay, now this problem does have a little twist. I think it's a good twist. Other people might disagree. The fact that there's no c there actually makes the problem easier, in my opinion, because you know how you have to choose for something to eliminate and you have to do it here and do it there? It's like the first step is already done for you. If I write down to eliminate the c's, and I just write down equation 3 exactly the way it is, then step 1 is done for me. Now I just have to eliminate the c's using the other 2 equations. Okay, so I'm going to use equations 1 and 2, and I'm going to eliminate the c's. To do that, I have to distribute a negative 2 right there, because then I'll have 2c and negative 2c, and those go away. So my top equation is a minus 2b plus 2c equals 13. Distribute the negative 2, and you have 4a minus 2b minus 2c is equal to 6. Add those together, and I get 5a minus 4b, c's cancel out, equals 19. So I eliminated the c's over here, I eliminated them over here. Now I take these 2 equations, I pull them together, and I get rid of something else. So I use this guy right here and this guy right here, and I either get rid of the a's or the b's. I'm going to go for b's. So I'm going to multiply a 4 right here, then I have a 4b and a negative 4b, and I got it. So now I have 4a plus 4b is equal to 8. Those cancel. I have 9a equals 27. Divide by 9, and I get a equals 3. If you get to that point and you don't have a fraction, you should be feeling pretty confident. To make a mistake and end up without a fraction is probably kind of rare. So I'm going to come up to my answer, and where I put my a, I'm going to put in a 3. Okay, now that I have that, I go to those 2 yellow equations, choose one of them, whichever one's the easiest, and put a 3 in for a. I'm choosing that one. So it would be 3 plus b equals 2. The 3 comes over and becomes a negative, and I get b equals negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and put in a negative 1. Now I have to find my c. The only place that there's a c is in the beginning, and that would just be equation number, I didn't mean to scribble that, and erasing it is going to be so tough. I don't know if that's still a valid equation, but anyway, I wasn't going to use that one anyway. I tried to highlight it and it crossed it out. That's the guy I want, because I'm trying to find c, and I think that one's easier anyway. Okay, so negative 2 times A, that's negative 6, plus B, which is minus 1, plus C equals negative 3. So I have C minus 7 equals negative 3. Pull it over. C equals 4. Come over to my answer. Put it in. Okay, it's a lot. Would you check that? Would you check that? Yes, definitely if it was on the quiz or on the final. Do I think it's going to be that tough? I don't. I don't. But they've surprised me before, right? So way better to be like this. Look, be prepared for this and have them do this rather than the opposite. Be prepared for this and have them do that, right? Wouldn't that be terrible? So we got to be ready. Okay, one last question. And this one is probably going to confuse you just a little bit too. Okay, step number 1, factor. It's done. Okay, so here's the weird thing. Do you see how in the second term right there, the second factor, the x is squared, but it won't factor. X squared plus 5 won't factor. That's the problem. Okay, so everybody put a little asterisk right there, okay? And write this down. If you have an x squared or higher, and it won't factor. You know what? Erase the or higher. Just say if you have an x squared and it won't factor, you have to do ax plus b. That is the only time you do ax plus b. Let me set it up and then let me tell you what people do wrong, okay? First of all, you have an x plus 2 and you have an x squared plus 5. It is not this, x plus 5 squared. If it was x plus 5 squared, I would do an x plus 5 to the first on that fraction and an x plus 5 to the second on the second fraction. That would be like a b and that would be a c. That's not what I'm doing. I've got something different, okay? Who says I see the difference? Raise your hand. Okay, great. So above the x plus 2 is just an a. You look at the second guy and you say he's squared and it won't factor. So I have to write that as bx plus c. I wouldn't put ax plus b because I already have an a over there. You could call it mx plus r. Who cares? Find your m, find your r, stick it in. It doesn't matter what you let it be, okay? All right, now the rest is the same. That's the toughest part. I think the rest of this problem is actually pretty easy. So go original denominator, all 3 of those terms. Okay, first fraction, x plus 2, x plus 2, x squared plus 5, x squared plus 5. What you're left with is 3x a second minus x plus 13. Second fraction, x plus 2's cancel, distribute the a, and you have ax squared plus 5a. Last fraction, x squared plus 5 cancels with x squared plus 5. Everybody look at what I have. I have bx plus c multiplied by x plus 2. Tell me with one word what we have to do right here. You have to FOIL. Good. Some people will do this. Look right here for 2 seconds so this is not you. Some people do that. They distribute the c to the x plus 2, but they're thinking the bx is not multiplied by it. You have a binomial times a binomial, so you must FOIL is correct, okay? So let's FOIL that. So then you have plus bx squared plus 2bx plus cx plus 2c. Anything that has no x, here, here, and here. So I have 5a plus 2c is equal to 13. I like my variables on the left. Anything that has an x to the first, this guy, this guy, this guy. So I have 2b plus c is equal to -1. Anything that just has an x squared, drop the x squared and flip it. So it's a plus b equals 3. Who says I'm with you? Let me see. Okay. I actually lied. It's not super easy. It's as difficult as the last one. Look at this. Listen and see. You guys are so smart. I know I can tell you something very complicated verbally, and I know most of you will understand. Listen to this. The first guy has no B. The second guy has no A. The third guy has no C. So whatever I choose to eliminate, the first step is done because I have an equation that's missing either the A or the B or the C. So look at the other variables. Look at the A's, 5 and 1. Look at the B's, 2 and 1. Look at the C's, 2 and 1. I would choose B's or C's, and I'm actually going to choose B's. Okay, so I'm choosing to eliminate the B's, but the beautiful thing is, you guys, this guy right here already doesn't have a B. So my first step is done. 5A plus 2C is equal to 13. Now I'm going to take these two guys right here and eliminate the B's. How do I do that? I multiply this guy by a -2. So what do I have? I have 2B plus C equals -1. Distribute the -2, and I have -2A minus 2B equals -6. I did not line the A underneath the C because I can't add those together. The B's go away, so I have -2A plus C equals -7. What do I do now? Do you know what I do now? What do I do now?
You combine those.
Combine these two and do what?
Eliminate.
Eliminate something else is right. Look at the A's, 5 and 2. Look at the C's, 2 and 1. I choose C's. So this is going to be distribute a -2. So I have 4A minus 2C is equal to 14. C's go away. 9A is equal to 27. Divide, A equals 3. So I'm feeling pretty confident, okay? Come to where your answer is going to be. It's A over X plus 2. And then I have to find my B and my C and put them there, okay? Now let's find our B. Well, now it's going to be easy, guys. Look, A is 3. I'm going to go right there. So I'm going to go 3 plus B equals 3. Pull my 3 over, B equals 0. It's okay. Don't panic. Just go with it. So that would just be 0x. Now I just have to find my C. I'm going to go right here in purple. That's my choice. I know B is a 0. So 2 times 0, that's just a 0. So that gives me C equals -1. Come over here, put my -1. It's fine. It's awkward. Full credit, but awkward. Why is it awkward? 0 times x is just a 0, so you don't even have to write that, and it looks like that. Okay? All right. That's your lesson. Who says, tell the truth. Who says, I think I'm good? Raise your hand all the way up, all the way up. Okay. I've got 70, 80% of you guys saying I'm good.